This is Voice It. This podcast is about showcasing talented local people in the Clare Valley and across the mid-north of South Australia. I'm Annabelle Homer.
The only time that my Fitbit watch says that I'm stressed is when I'm painting, which is kind of weird.
When I was little, she always had the camera on me. When I was a teenager, I hated it and it was annoying.
Being creative, I feel like you change your mind a lot.
Taking photos for you, you're taking them for your kids and for your future grandkids and things like that for your family history.
My two special guests today are Nadinne Wilkinson, an accomplished photographer from Snowtown who takes beautiful photos of families, new bubs and weddings right across regional South Australia. And Alysha Sparks, a talented artist from Jamestown who transforms her surroundings into magical masterpieces. Both are from the land, both are mums, and both have two boisterous boys nipping at their heels. So over the next 30 minutes, you'll hear how these two women began their successful ventures and how they balance professional and family life and seem to make it work. Let's start with Alysha. Here she describes when she first realised the moment when she could turn her passion for being an artist into a career.
It sort of snuck up on me, really. I would paint at home, random things. I was working in Adelaide and I would paint at the dining table. I just like to dabble. It'd be birds or people. And one day I decided I had this canvas that was quite big and I thought, I'll just do an abstract. And I just loved the way the colours came together, and I had this sort of page I was dabbling with on social media, and that was back in the day when everybody who followed you on Facebook saw your posts. I just thought, I'll just stick it up for sale, see what it does. And yeah, it was gone. It was sold very quickly.
What's very quickly?
In less than an hour.
Oh, wow.
Still,
that would have been a confidence boost.
Yes, it was a very good confidence boost. And it was just something that I did on the side because I was a full-time graphic designer. I worked for the Hurley Hotel Group.
How old were you at this point?
9 years ago, like 24. So I'd paint just on the weekends, at nights, any spare minute that I had, generally during the week. And yeah, I just pop them up and they'd sell, and I'd drop them off to people and have a bit more money to go and buy more canvases and more stuff to paint with.
So when did you quit your day job and decide, yep, this is what I'm going to do full time, or as much as it is full time?
Well, it was a little while after that because maybe a year later I started working for myself, doing graphic design, so I had more time to paint. But I was also dabbling in photography at the time, and then photographed my first wedding, and then that sort of threw me into doing mainly photography with a side of art, and really launching into weddings that took up most of my time, which I had because I was young and single. It wasn't probably until, I've always painted and sold, but now since having the boys, I find it easier to paint in the backyard, in my studio, and sell rather than trying to find the logistics of someone to look after the boys to get to a shoot, to use up my weekends, So I find it easier to paint at the moment while the boys are so young.
How does it make you feel when you paint?
I don't know, I just get in the zone. I just start painting and it's like everything else just fades away, and you just sort of get on a roll and you just want to keep painting until you get that piece finished. And it's the only time that my Fitbit watch says that I'm stressed is when I'm painting, which is kind of weird. I just must get in a zone where I'm just like furiously painting. But it's just, once I've got that idea in my head and I start painting, you just got to keep going until it's finished. So I tend to not start something until I know I've got enough time to start and finish it.
For those people that haven't seen your beautiful paintings, can you describe what you specialise in?
I specialise in impressionist landscapes of mainly the area around me because that's what I see every day. I also paint florals. I'm dabbling in still life florals at the moment too. And I also love painting like cattle portraits and sheep, which sheep are relatively new because it took me a while to master them.
Why is that?
Hard
harder
I wouldn't say
faces?
that they're boring. I'm just saying they don't have quite as much character as cattle.
Oh, right.
Because cattle have all different patterns and they have hair, whereas wool I found quite tricky to paint. But then I changed my style and the way I approached it, and now I feel really comfortable painting sheep. And I find their personalities now.
Do you develop a bond with that painting, especially when you are painting animals? Do you become quite attached?
Yeah, I do, because you're just sort of seeing their personality come through as you're creating them. And I find a lot of the time I paint the eyes first, so it's not this weird thing that I'm working on. It's like actually got personality from the get-go, and do the face and that, and then work your way back.
Nadine, or Nads, let's go to you. There are a lot of photographers across the country and across the regional South Australia. Mm-hmm. So there's a fair bit of competition.
Yep.
When did you realise that, yes, I can make a career out of this?
Career-wise, probably wasn't until, I'm going to say, when Alysha wasn't doing weddings. And then from that, rather than being competitive, and we sort of made a community of it. And Alysha was, if she'd get a wedding booking, she would send them my way if I was available. And so I saw that as an opportunity and just thought, right, I'm going to get into this via weddings, get a name for myself and do it that way, which at the time I had kids then, so it probably was very difficult and very hard, but weddings were probably my main thing, so I went from there.
Do you remember the first photo that you ever took and you thought, wow, I'm not bad at this?
I think just the comments that you get from the feedback from people, and just saying, oh, wow, like I don't see myself like that, but you saw our family in a different light, or that kind of thing, that really hits home. And when you're editing on the screen and you just see this little tiny moment, and it's just a split second of the look of a little kid in the mum's eyes and the hands touching, just that connection, and you really feel it on the inside, and that's I think what keeps me going and why I do what I do.
Did you start taking photos when you were a teenager, or how far back are we going?
Yep. So my mum was the auntie or the mum person that always had the camera out. So she was, when I was little, she always had the camera on me. When I was a teenager, I hated it and it was annoying, and all my friends were like, oh, mum, your mum's out again. So that was embarrassing. But now I absolutely love it, and I'm so grateful that I have all these photos to look back on. And I'm probably a sentimental, nostalgic person. I love looking back on those photos and just sparks all the memories, and then from that create stories and then ask questions and that sort of thing. So I've always really enjoyed that. And then teenage years, I was always the friend that had the camera, and at parties, and I was always the one, with the film cameras, and had to go and get it processed. That was me. So I've got lots of that, timeline, I guess, of all those memories.
Alysha, what's the most difficult part of the job? Probably deciding whether to do a commission or not. I find it I love to be able to paint whatever I like and what sort of inspires me, because I find the best paintings come from no constraints at all. But then I also like the challenge of having constraints. So it's a hard one.
Double-edged sword. Yeah.
It is. So it takes a while for me to commit to a commission, and then I have to have it really nutted out in my head before I can start. Because I did take a break from them and I've just started doing them again. But
have you ever started a painting or finished a painting and thought, I don't like this, I have to start again?
I think, yeah, it definitely has.
Or can you fix it halfway through?
I think I got to be in the right headspace. And I tried to paint a sheep a few years ago and it was horrendous. It was so bad. I put it in the file and it was burnt. It was out in the
you put it in the fire.
In the bonfire. Yeah, it was so bad, and I was just like, that was one commission that I just couldn't do. I just had to give her her money back. I was just like, I'm so sorry. I really cannot paint sheep, and I just wasn't in the right frame of mind. I had too much going on, and I had a newborn, and yeah, it was the only one I've ever done that for. A lot of other paintings I paint over, and they never get wasted, but yeah, that one was a really tricky one.
Well, now look at you now. You're a sheep pro painter. How things have changed.
Practice.
Nads, have you ever been to a wedding, taken some photos, gone back to the editing suite and thought, oh, the lighting's all wrong, or does it get to that point, or you can fix it halfway through?
Been quite lucky, and a whole gallery's never been bad or anything like that, but maybe just the odd photo. Yeah, if you just haven't changed your settings and the sun's come out from behind the cloud, and then it's overexposed or something like that. But yeah, and then it can't be fixed post-production. That'd probably be the worst thing. But yeah, haven't had any really bad, and definitely nothing that I could go back to a client and say, I don't have anything for you, or so touch wood.
So you wouldn't say that being a photographer is stressful?
It definitely is, yes. And I probably find sometimes if I go to have a client, whether it's business or family or newborn, if they show me a photo that they've had of a previous photographer, or they show me, this is what we were looking at, this type of, then I kind of shut down. Then I go, oh, okay, and then I zone in on, like, oh, so they want it like this, but then that might not be what I had in mind, or then I stop looking at the light or what's going on, or just kind of shuts down my creativity a little bit, I find, versus if they come in with open arms going, yep, the show's yours, we just want this photographed and these people, and, you go, and then I'll have free reign. I think that works, that collaboration is a lot better.
Nads, people say when you're a creative, it's hard work. Financially, is it worth it? But being a photographer and an artist in a regional setting, are you both finding it that you can make a viable life out of it financially? And are you busier than you ever thought you would be?
Yes and yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it is a fine line between, so obviously when I started out, and a lot of photographers and artists probably would start out, they're not charging enough, and then they end up taking on more work, and they're still not charging enough, and then they end up finding that they get burnt out. So versus trying to increase your prices while your demand is still there. So that has been tricky, finding that line between being financially viable and also still getting the clients coming in the door. But it's about, once you get your name out there, then you're getting those people that love you and actually value your work, and they're not coming in and showing you photos and that sort of thing, so they're trusting you.
How long does that take? That must take a few years to get that trust and to get that following.
Yep, absolutely. It's probably taken me definitely 4 or 5 years to get where I am. I've been photographing now for, I think, 9 years, and sort of full-time now, a bit over 3 years. It's definitely struggle. You struggle at the start, and finding that financial balance to make it worthwhile is tricky, because I was earning more, working part-time 3 days a week versus what I am now, and I'm working, ridiculous, crazy hours a week. It's very hard, but you do it because you love it and you enjoy it, and it's choosing your own hours is probably a good bonus to doing it. So, and keeping up with the times too, because I presume you've had to diversify in this
digital era. So you're doing videography as well, and are you doing drone work and things like that?
Yep. So I've got a drone, so I can add that in. Lots of my businesses I'll take drone shots for as well. So just I guess having all bases covered, but it's also hard as well, trying to hone in and maybe just get a niche, and am I doing too much? So that's hence why probably going out of weddings a bit more going forward, and also just having that family life back will be nice.
Speaking of family, what does your husband Chippy make of your career?
I think he is very proud, and probably maybe gobsmacked. Couldn't think I could do it, but definitely at the start was like, oh, okay, see how it goes, and then the more I got into it, he could start to see, go, oh no, you've got this, and kept maybe not proving him wrong, but he's definitely always been supportive and encouraging, and he has the boys a lot to help me do what I'm able to do. So definitely very thankful, and I absolutely would not be here without him.
Alysha, what does Tom think?
It's hard to gauge sometimes what he thinks. He has a very stressful, busy job himself. So I kind of fit everything in around if Mum can have the boys. But he's very supportive, and He loves that I've got a studio in the backyard that I can leave my mess in, not bring into the house.
But and it's a very beautiful looking studio, I must say.
It is, but maybe not right today. A little bit going on in there, but it's nice to be able to have a space to shut the door on.
And does he appreciate what you do? Does he appreciate the arts?
Yeah, he does. He'll come in and, being a stock agent, he'll come in and tell me, like he did yesterday, that the sheep's face wasn't quite even, or if it's the right breed to be painting.
Well, it has to be a certain breed.
He loves cattle, and he'll take me out around the paddock so I can get photographs of cattle from one of his clients so I can paint from, and be like, oh no, not that one. But you can pick, that one's a good one. You can go for that one. He's very particular about what I paint when it comes to livestock.
But not so much about the landscape. So you can paint anything.
He's like, oh yeah, that looks good. Or you can really tell by the tone of his voice if he likes it.
Do you ever hang any of your own paintings in your own house?
I do. I live with them for a while, and then I know if there's something wrong with them or not. You know, it's something that catches your eye when you're walking past and you're like, oh, I just need to fix that. But generally I'll be like, okay, I'm going to keep this painting. I'm not going to sell it. And then like 3 weeks later I'm like, nah, I'll sell it.
So you don't get too attached then?
Well, being creative, I feel like you change your mind a lot. Like I could never get a tattoo because I'd be like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Changed my thought process, or, you know, changed tact. And like paintings, my paintings have evolved in such over the last 6 years, they're completely different. I do have a couple that I haven't sold that are hanging up in my house, but yeah, most of them on rotation.
What's your favourite painting that you've ever done?
Oh, that I've ever done. One of the recent ones, Golden Hour, is of a mob of sheep that I painted last year. It's a photo I took for a Grazia magazine article, and it was just, everything was just magic in that photo, so I had to paint it as well. And yeah, it's just a mob of sheep at golden hour with the dusty sheep yards, and I really enjoyed painting it. It was a challenge and it took my time, which I don't normally have much patience. So yeah, I really enjoyed painting that one, and it was really hard to part with.
How much time did it take you?
Oh, that's a tricky question, because I would come out and I'd do bits and pieces on it here and there, especially with the faces. So I couldn't tell you exactly, but it was over a course of 6 weeks I would add to it, whereas a landscape painting, if I've done the work in my head, I can do that in a couple of hours. So it's very different, and it's very time consuming in comparison.
Nads, what's your favourite photo that you've ever taken?
It was images of my 2 boys at sunset, and I'd just finished doing a course, and it was all about light and learning about light and learning to look at the light. Where's the light coming from? What is it shining on? And so that just really, really sparked my interest then, and the way I see light now has completely changed. And so it's just that little, it was probably only 15, 20 minutes. The boys were playing outside with water pistols and in golden hour, and I was just working with light and shadows and learning and teaching myself and being creative, and I just really loved that moment in time. And I have one of those photos of Reggie, my older son, in the kitchen, and that just really takes me back to that time, and I guess helps me show how far I've come, and just I guess why I do what I do, that really being creative with light and just seeing things differently to how everyday people might sort of see things.
What's the next step in the Nads and Alysha journey? Nads?
Next step for me, I think, is maybe just trying to help people and taking them on the journey and getting there quicker than I did. So I've mentored one girl photographer sort of 18 months ago now, and just seeing how far she has come from when I first started with her to where she's now. That's just been a huge, great feeling for me, helping her. And so now I've got 4 mentoring clients that I'm working with in this winter coming. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's fantastic.
And then future goal, we'll see how long it takes, but I'd love to do some sort of workshops, whether it's with mums and that sort of thing, just, utilising the camera, and just to see things differently, because I always think you don't know what you don't know, and if someone teaches it or tells you in a different way, then you may learn something or just take it on board. And if I can help someone in any simple way, and especially with photos, because you don't get that time back. And yeah, now that I have kids, I understand how fast they grow, so it is a important time to be present and capture them and remember them. And you're not just taking photos for you, you're taking them for your kids and for your future grandkids and things like that, for your family history.
Alysha, what's the next step for you?
Well, I like to keep things pretty free and open, just in like for when things do pop up. And I don't want to like overcommit myself while the boys are still little. But in a few years' time, when they're both at school, it'd be cool to start running some workshops. Dabbling in them this year, but don't want to overcommit myself. It's an easy trap to get into as a working mum. But yeah, just growing the business. So I don't want to sound like, I don't know how to sound, but I feel like I'm living the dream that I set out to be now, which is, and it's pretty a good balance right now for us. So in the future, yeah, there'd be some cool places that I would like to get my art into.
Like where?
Jumbled.
Oh, okay. Over in Orange in New South Wales, yes.
But it would be pretty cool to put Jamestown on the map art-wise, and really want to bring really cool artists into Jamestown to like really bring it alive with street art and make it a destination, not just the passing through town on the way to the Flinders. Yeah, I've got really big goals for the town, really, art-wise.
Well, I think that's fantastic, and I think it's just wonderful to hear about your lives and to find out more about you both and your journey and how you've got to be where you are. So I really appreciate you spending some time with me today and being part of my first ever Voice It podcast episode. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much, Annabelle.